Welcome to the Salem Chamber podcast. I'm Tom Hoffert, CEO of the Salem Chamber, and we're pleased to have you listening. Let's jump right in. We're joined today by Tim Jennings, president of Roth Fresh Markets. Tim, it's great to have you here.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's a super occasion, and there's a lot of history with Roth Fresh Markets, and we'll dive into a little bit of that. Tim, you're in a challenging industry. Roth has been calling Salem and the Willamette Valley home since 1962. Now, safe to say you were not there on opening day in 1962, but tell the audience how long you've been with Roth Fresh Markets.
Well, it's not been since 1962, but it's been since 1982. Let's put it that way. So it's been a few years. I started actually in Canby in the Willamette Valley and worked there. And I started, I was going to high school and needed a part-time job. Like a lot of Roth's employees start with Roth's, and I went in and got a job and became a courtesy clerk, bagging groceries, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. And the store manager, I think, saw a little exuberance in me and said, "Okay, well, do you want to, come in on Saturday and you can help clean up in the meat department? Hey, and you can help in the produce department, and we can." Back then, we trimmed the lettuce, didn't have the bag lettuce back then, and so I worked there and kind of worked my way up into different positions. Stocking shelves and working in the summertime in high school. There, I got to work on nights on freight, and then when I got a little older, I got to be a cashier and worked my way up. And the store manager came to me then and said, "Hey, have you ever thought about making the grocery career move?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And he kind of twist my arm, and I knew that I was a people person, and I really enjoyed that part of it, and so I said yes. And before I knew it, I was transferring, and I transferred to our Lancaster store at that time, and was an entry-level key person. That's back, oh, good grief, that would have been 1985, and the store manager back then was Larry McCammon, and back then the Lancaster store was quite the boomer, if you will, and I learned a tremendous amount with Larry and the staff that was there. And at that time, we were building some other stores around, and so I was always the one to raise my hand to say, "Will you come in later, or you will stay later?" And I kind of worked my way up through the ranks. And so over the years, I worked at Woodburn. I opened a Kaiser store. I opened the West Salem store as an assistant store manager with Michael Roth. I worked at Vista 2 different times. One was with Harold Walker, who was phenomenal in the grocery business. And then back with Bill Walters was running the store. And then in 1994, I was asked to take over as store manager in our McMinnville store. And I really, at that time, was just young and eager and jumped at the opportunity and didn't know what I was in for. And I was living in Salem and commuting back and forth to McMinnville, opened the store, got out there. The store at that time wasn't doing very much volume, and had to kind of work my way through what that looked like. And to make your labor numbers and to make all of the numbers that are put in front of you. So I found myself working about 16-hour days and not enjoying this. And I really had to have one of those meetings with myself. Is this really something you want to do? And at the end of the day, I really did enjoy what I'm doing. And then a few months later, we bought the location in McMinnville down the street, which at that time was Zupan's. And we closed our store and opened in the Zupan store the next day. And we had changed all the price tags. We had went in and recut all the meat. We put in our dairy with their front-end system, didn't agree with what our communications. We had to put in an all-new front-end system. We changed the sign on the front of the building, had this grand opening, opened the very next day at 2:00. And I can still remember having the ribbon cutting. We opened it up there, and the McMinnville Police Department had come in and said, can you get things going? And I was really confused. And, well, why? Because there's a line that's going out on 99E, and you're blocking traffic. And I was like, one of those fantastic moments that happened. And from that store never turned back. And still today is one of our more successful stores. Does a great job out there. I worked there until '96, and we were building the new store in Staten. And my children at that time were younger and just getting ready to, one going to middle school and one into high school. And growing up in a small town like Canby, I wanted to make sure that my children grew up in a small town. So I was eager and said, I pick me. And lo and behold, the very next week, I find myself out in Staten in pretty much an empty store. We're still kind of putting it together. I was helping put up gondola and helping put in product on the shelf. And I hung the first sign on the reader board myself because I didn't have any employees. And we built the Staten store up. And I worked out there building that until '98. And in 1998, Michael Roth came in and talked to me and said, Tim, we really want to consider you to be our marketing director. And at that time, I was like confused because I hadn't had any schooling in marketing. And he goes, no, we need someone who's not afraid to throw ideas at the wall, who's not afraid to have a sidewalk sale and fail. And there again, I was confused again. But in the grocery business, it's not really a Monday through Friday job. I mean, our business comes on the weekend. You've got to be able to throw different promotions out there. And I guess I was that guy. So I took that job and moved into the what we call Roth's Food Center. That's our location on Indian School Road. And became the marketing director. And I think I was pretty successful at that. We had to throw a lot of different ideas at Orville at the time, and he would shot them down, and he'd come back with some different ideas and to run the ad and to learn to run budget. And it was a very learning experience. And then opportunities grew within the food center at that time, and the grocery buyer position opened. And I was elevated to that and learned to be the grocery buyer for the company. And then, unfortunately, we lost Mr. Roth in 2013. And Michael Roth was taking just a tremendous amount on his shoulders. And Michael asked me to be general manager there in 2013 and to help him, grow the business. And Michael, incredible visionary, had just fantastic foresight. And he was one of those people, that can see the curvature of the earth. And I just respect him so much that he could see where we needed to take the company and how to take the company. And I was out there just doing my best to try to make that work. So I took that job in 2013, and we moved forward, and we went through a lot of struggles of everybody knows COVID and all the different inflationary times that we went through. And then in 2021, Michael, he did, well, let me back up. At that point, we wanted to have a succession plan, and Michael's son was our plan. He was going to come in and take over and just kind of shadow me. But he shadowed me for a while, but he decided that grocery was not really the direction he wanted to go. So Michael wanted to have an exit plan, and what he did is he found a company, the Pattison Food Group, that actually was looking to grow into the States. And so we came together and had a look at that and wanted to make sure it was the right fit. And as you know how things go, there's large venture capital groups that can come in and buy a company, and the first thing they do, yeah, you read about that they go in and of course terminate everybody, then rehire you back, and then split off everything. And Michael did not want that to happen. And to this day, I thank him because he found this company, the Pattison Group, that wanted to buy us for our culture. And I totally buy into that because the culture that Orville taught me and that Michael taught me that we want to be is exactly what the Pattison Food Group is. And then they looked at this and they said, hey, this is exactly who we are. This is what we want to grow. And so we came together, and in 2021, then Michael got to retire. And at that time, I was elevated to president, and here we are today.
You've got a very special story in Roth's company culture and how it takes care of their employees. The priority on the customer experience is profound. But you, Tim, you were there for the growth of the company and now its acquisition and in a key leadership role. You are the face of Ross, and that's a huge responsibility. You have Orville that, omnipresent in the grocery world and especially locally in Oregon, known as even the color green.
That's right.
And the bow tie. I was fortunate to come up in the Ross system. And so you shared a little bit of your story. I'm going to share a little of mine and get a couple of your thoughts along the way. I was hired, actually Clint Grassman and Bill Walters. I was hired before I turned 16 so I could start on my 16th birthday. Legally, of course, I was hired on my 16th birthday and was fortunate to get hired on as a courtesy clerk at Sunny Slope location. And the alignment of how you train young people, customer service. Talk to me a little bit about that, because I'll be honest, I grew up with an incredible family and manners and respect for adults, but I learned so much about customer service at Roth's. Tell me how you train people in it's an art on how to take care of people and customer service. Tell me a little bit about Roth's philosophy on that and why it's so important for the Roth's culture.
Well, that's actually a very good statement that how important it is, and it is because if you really get down to it, it's the last faced with the customer, isn't it? And you want that to be lasting. Now, I had the privilege of actually helping out in our new hire class, and as president, I try to make every new hire class and to talk to our new hires and to talk to them about what Roth's is. Now, anybody can go and sell Kraft mac and cheese, and anybody can go and sell Best Food mayonnaise. And there, if you went up and down Commercial Street and went to these different stores, you're going to see a little bit of different price, but they're about the same price. So it all gets down to value, doesn't it? And why you shop somewhere. And you shop somewhere because it's convenient, but you shop somewhere because of the perishables. But really, you shop somewhere because you want to be recognized. You want to know that you're important. And we talk to our new hires, and I always pull a dollar bill out of my pocket, and I hold up the dollar bill, and I say, why are we all here? Well, we're here to earn money. I always say, I thought a lot of us were here to, to get some exercise. But yes, we're here to get, to earn money, and we work hard for this money. And let's all think about what you're going to do with this money. Well, I'm going to go buy clothes, or I'm going to go buy a car. I'm going to do this. But think about this. Just if you're going to take your money and you're going to go down to the local fast food place, and you go in and you're going to buy some fast food, and you order off the menu, and there's an employee there. And the employee doesn't greet you. The employee doesn't make eye contact with you. The employee, then all they do is just ask for your money. Now, you worked hard for that money, and you just want to hand that over? I tug back. I tug back a little bit on that. And I said, I worked hard for this money, and I want somebody to appreciate it. That's the first thing that we really try to teach these employees. The second thing that we really try to teach these employees is there's a lot of supervision, whether it's your store manager or whether it's our general manager, Jeff Lewis, or wherever it is if I come into the store. And am I the boss? No, I'm not the boss. I don't pay your paycheck. I get the privilege of signing your check, but the customer is the one that's paying your paycheck. And if you want to impress your boss, well, now's your chance. So you need to get out there and impress your boss. And I think a lot of young people today might not put two and two together with that, so that's going to be a little bit of an aha moment. Now, the next part that comes with the culture, and it's just about making sure that you have, I don't want to say rules, but you have stringent things that you carry on that are consistent. And I will say that, there are certain things that we have changed over the years, but you have to have consistency and understanding that structure and consistency is just part of Roth's.
Yeah. You welcome your guests, and they're treated with a great deal of respect, but you also offer superior product. Talk to me about local sourcing, because if there's one guy that I know is going and seeing new products, new offerings from the Willamette Valley, and not just wine, although Tim is a connoisseur, an expert in the category. Talk to me about how you source locally, Tim, and that commitment to the best products.
Well, there again, it gets back to setting yourself apart. And, I can talk again about, Commercial Street and going down to the different locations and what sets yourself apart. We talked about service, we've talked about perishables. But if you get into, local barbecue sauce, and I know Mr. Adams well, and I was the first one to go in and say, we want your products on our shelf. And, what that says to our customers also is that Roth's is part of the community. And I feel that's very important. Now, there's a lot of local businesses out there that we talk to that we might be their first startup. And I can still remember Orville. I remember him. I was at one of our stores, and he came in, and there was a local vendor that was there, and he saw this local vendor, and he went out of his way, went up and shook his hand and spoke to him and said, it's because of you that makes us who we are today. And you really thought about it. I said, I thought it was kind of the other way around. And really, it's not. It's not. It's that local person that works hard for their product, who works on their label, goes out, works to get it on the shelf, and then goes back and works again and again. This is before they get a distributorship. So that meant a lot to me, and I hope that we carry that forward. We want to help those local vendors get a foothold.
Well, you do it, and you do it in a profound way. You have so many local products featured at your store, and it provides the community a rallying point, because we know we're buying local products from the people surrounding us in the community, and when we get to break bread, we get to celebrate the Willamette Valley each time we do it. You take me to a really great thing that I remember. George Puentes, Puentes Brothers, Don Pancho Mexican Foods. Roth's, Orville was the first retailer to bring Don Pancho brand into a retail store. And George and his company had struggled to get traction, did a great job with restaurants and selling to local tiendas and the like, but not a mainstream traditional marketplace in Salem. And Orville took that first jump with George and brought the Puentes Brothers at the time product into stores. And it was a very special moment for a local company. So they're now crossed over $150 million in annual sales. Know that Ross was a big part of getting that going, Tim. So thank you from the Puentes and Baez family for your support there. I went from being a courtesy clerk in high school. myself, and we knew who Tim Jennings was because you'd sometimes do some store visits, and the big cheese. You had Orville and Daryl Rybloom and yourself, and certainly Michael Roth. And I remember thinking, boy, this company really knows how to develop great leaders, because you were in the community, you knew your vendors, your Curly's rep or your Mallory's rep would come in and you're shaking hands. And I was really impressed as a young person about that. And seeing the leadership track that you personally went on, how satisfying is it now, deep into your career, and you've really reached the top with Ross? And is there an air of satisfaction there that, maybe not I made it, but how strongly do you feel that you've been there from the beginning and now you're running this company, committed to local workforce and the like, and even through an acquisition, you've kept your values and you have a focus on local employees and your customers. Talk to me about that satisfaction. What is it like to sit in your seat now, and how do you look back and reflect on that?
Well, first, Tom, thank you. That's a huge compliment. I never really had aspirations to be president. I really couldn't wait to be a store manager. That was one of my big goals. I wanted to be a store manager. Back then, it's kind of like in golf when you're given the green jacket. We were all given these green jackets, and at that time I wanted my green jacket, and I worked really hard to get to my green jacket, and I didn't get to be a store manager as long as I wanted to, and I got elevated and moved forward. Things happen pretty fast. There's times now when I'm in the community with my wife Jody, and we'll do a restaurant, and somebody will come by and say, "Oh, it's the president," and I go, "Who are you talking about?" It's I don't know. I don't look at myself that way. I still look at I'm proud that I get to represent our company. I'm more proud that I get to represent our employees, and I think that's what I reflect on more. When I talk to the vendors, and what I really try to do is I try to stay a little hands-off more with our buyers. But I like to be there to show the commitment, so that if we negotiate with a local vendor that we're going to buy this product and we want to negotiate a good price because we want to pass that on to our customers, the president's sitting right there. He means it. We're not going to take half of that and pocket it. We don't do that. We pass it on. Now, some of these larger companies out there, they get to negotiate a little harder. We're learning, and we're passing it through. So that's the part that gives me satisfaction, is when we can look those vendors in the eye and say, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it.
You speak from a position of leadership, and leadership is a key topic in all business communities. Certainly in our organization, leadership is a word of action, but it's aspirational as well. How do you, as a leader, as president, best support your top line managers all the way down to your new hires? You spoke about being present at the new hire training. How do your key managers, how do you support them best, and how do you work with them to be great leaders in their own right?
Well, I think the key is, number one, is to lead by example. And that goes through our entire family. That's just one thing that we're always talking about. That's someone that we're always aware of. That it's great to have a good time, but it's always great to make sure that we're always leading by example. And I think that also it comes back to, and everybody's heard this in several different seminars on leadership, is what's the difference between a leader and a boss. And I can tell you, over my career, I've had a few bosses, but I've had some great leaders. And that is one thing that when we bring our middle management in, and I get the privilege of running that class, that we spend a tremendous amount of talking about is, coming and training with our employees, and they hear me say this 1,000 times, is set the pace, set the tone, and then come back and set the tone and set the pace. Don't micromanage, but give some assistance, give some rope, and then come back and maybe have a few suggestions. Or did you consider this, or did you consider that? And let the employee explore, let them go, and you get ownership.
Yeah, that employee buy-in is so key, and you've done a great job there. And I think it's evident in your team and how selfless and involved in the community they become, and people feel at home at Ross, and that's an important part of that grocery experience. You brought up an interesting thing. When you look at your customer profile, we've seen a massive change in buying habits. And you have an online world now with retail. You have so many ways that consumers can choose to purchase products. And talk to me about what you've seen in that change. You're an expert in this field. What changes have you seen in buying habits of, we used to go with our parents. I'd get in the cart. I wanted to get in the cart before my sister did. And
well, you came for the cookie.
I came for the free cookie at the bakery for sure. And you can tell I still enjoy the free cookie at the bakery. Tim, tell me about, how has the buying habit changed, and how has Ross adapted?
Yeah, that's a very, very good subject that we talk about, if not weekly, daily at Roth's. And if you really think about this, think about how your parents shopped. And your parents would come with a list and, we're having, spaghetti on Monday, and we're having pork chops on Tuesday, and, we're having meatloaf on Wednesday, and we're going to have fish sticks on Friday, and what have you. And Mom would come and she would shop for the week. And then she would, during the middle of the week, you'd run in for bread, milk, and eggs, and that's how a lot of our parents shopped. Now, that shopping pattern has changed after generation, but if you really look at today's gotta have it now, I don't have any time, and if you think about this, if all of you think about what's the number one question that you and your significant other ask every day, what's for dinner? Think about that. We need to adapt, and we need to help you solve that question. So what we're trying to do is to be that for you. So we've really tried to change the way that stores are laid out, the way that our ads are laid out, that we can help you solve that problem of what's for dinner. With that, there's just a lot of people that don't have the time. You've got soccer practice, you've got ballet, you've got, all these things that you're doing, which is fantastic. And so people just don't have the time. So in the past, you look at that and it's like, well, we used to cook a pot roast. Well, no one has time to cook a pot roast. Or face it, there's certain generation that doesn't know how to cook a pot roast, and that's why we sell crock pots, by the way. And so we need to solve that and to be that. And we're evolving as we speak even. We're just getting ready to launch a new marketing program, which is I'm very excited about, and hopefully I get this right, but it's ready to eat, ready to heat, and we're ready to cook. And we're going to be trying to solve your dinner needs for you every day. And so that's been the biggest change that's happened over the years with it and on how people shop. People shop daily, if not twice a day now, and we want to be that for them.
Talk to me about the newer shopper. What's the profile? What does Ross aim for with a 18 to 28-year-old shopper?
Sure. So the 18 to 28-year-old shopper comes in, and I think the first thing that they're more concerned about is, well, they want convenience. And let's face it, a lot of the 18 to 28-year-old is used to a little more technology than my age group, and so they want it convenient. So if you notice at all the Roth stores, we have the kiosks now that are at the delis where you can order burgers and you can order grilled cheese sandwich even off of the kiosk. And so that has just been a huge plus for the 18 to 28-year-old shopper. They love that. And with that new technology. And we're looking at expanding that technology throughout our store in different areas. And I think that consumer is going to adapt to that quickly. That 18 to 28-year-old shopper also, like we said before, they're not looking for this big, huge, recipe that takes 4 hours. They want something that's a little easier. However, I will say the best thing that's happened to us lately has been the Food Network. I mean, everybody's watching the Food Network, and they say, well, that looks good. Let's give that a try. And if anything, I think we all in the grocery business should be marketing more on the Food Network.
Yeah, they do a great job in inspiring future chefs of America, and Ross has all the ingredients, so pay a visit. You noted the transition to a Canadian company. Talk to me about how that transition has gone. Sometimes, and I remember the first time I found out about the transition, and your exact words to me were, "Tom, don't worry, it's a good thing." Now, I share that because I went through a transition when I was at Don Pancho with Reese's Fine Foods acquiring our company, and it was a good thing. But there is kind of a notion that acquisition, as you mentioned, can be, hey, clear out the management team, restart things, put our people in. You noted that they have kept the culture and that Ross was an asset to bring into their portfolio due to alignment. Talk to me about tactically the transition. What were some of the things that you needed to do during the transition? What were some of the pinch points? And what were some of the real successes of going through a transition like that?
Sure. First of all, I want to give Michael Roth some huge credit here. Michael, again, saw far out in the future, and he did realize that there's just so much more growth for this company that he just didn't have at that time. And he wanted to maintain that this company was taken care of. And again, I just want to give Michael huge credit there. What we've learned with the Patterson Food Group, and I can honestly tell you, in my 41-year plus selling groceries, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't learn something new on how to measure something and how to look at things and how to manage things. And I'm like a kid again. It's just fantastic. And I'm always telling myself, I didn't know. And we get to run with that idea and run with this other idea. And I get this privilege of every Monday I'm on a Teams call with these other presidents of these other banners, and we talk about our results, and we talk about our upcoming ads and our upcoming promotions, and we talk about different structures and different things. And I'm there with my pen just writing things down as fast as I can, getting all these different ideas that I can't wait to run to the team and go, let's try this. And then when I get to talk to management from the Patterson Food Group, and I report to them quarterly, and we talk about successes that we've had, it's just been open arms, welcoming. How can we help you? It's been fantastic.
I appreciate their commitment to the Salem market, the greater Salem market, because you certainly have locations outside of Salem. But that's fantastic to hear, and I'm glad it's been very positive for your employees, and I know you're a big conduit of that. Talk to us about some of the initiatives we'll see from Ross in the year or two ahead.
Sure. What we're really focusing on, and I know that there's a lot of immediate concerns there's a lot of people today that are stretching their dollar, and we see it, and we want to help. And it's very important that we get in our stores today and show value. And our initiative the rest of this year, the first into next year, is just that. we're buckling down. We're going to show some value. We're going to be there for our customers and hopefully new customers that can come in and enjoy Roths, enjoy quality and food that your family deserves. Now, in the future, we're looking to grow. And, where that is, when that is, I don't know. But I can tell you that the Patterson Food Group has made it very clear that they would like to keep to grow, and they're always asking me, where can we grow? What can we do? Where can we expand and build a new Roths? And then that's fantastic. And so who knows? I think the future is very, very bright.
No, that's great to hear. Great to hear. It's a tough industry. Orville did a great job of describing for every $1 of revenue, they're a matter of pennies. 1 to 2 pennies that come back. Orville often would say 2 cents out of every dollar, and it sounds like that may have even been compressed down even further. How do you see the landscape for the grocery landscape going forward? Are there key changes that are coming? You had mentioned technology changes and catering to customers who seek the technology angle. What other things are we going to see in the grocery industry? Do you have some predictive things that we should be watching for?
Well, I don't want to say that I can predict things, but I will say that if everybody's following the news today, you're following what Amazon's doing, you're following what Walmart's doing. But in the news lately, there's these massive companies, Kroger, Albertson, Safeway, that are looking like they're going to come to a deal together. And what they're trying to do is to create a company that they then can go and compete with the Amazons and the Walmarts. So what does that look like to us? What does that look like to the customers in Salem? What kind of change is that going to bring? Those are the things that we think about. Those are the things that we're concerned about. I talked a little bit earlier about our buying power. And we work very, very hard with our local vendors. We work very, very hard with our wholesalers. And what that does is that puts us on a little bit of an unfair buying advantage. So those are the things that we're working really hard to make sure that we can get the best deal for our customer, the best deal out there that we can pass through on all these offers and still offer the fantastic value at a local company.
You're a gentleman who is tasked with a lot and with great responsibility. Comes the need to refresh and keep ourselves as leaders energized. Would you be vulnerable and share how does Tim Jennings, do the reset and recharge and what do you do to keep yourself fresh and ready to go for your customers and your workforce?
Well, I do take some time off to enjoy the wonderful Oregon coast. I love to go over there. One of my favorite things is to go and catch a crab once in a while and rid the world of some crustacean. That's one of the things I do enjoy doing. My wife Jody and I, we're going to spend some time here next month. We're going to go over to Central Oregon and see if we can't recharge a bit over there. But as you stated earlier too, I enjoy visiting some of our local wineries. I love getting out and enjoying a dinner in one of our local restaurants here. Those are the things that I like to do, just and to stay involved.
When if somebody were to ask you, Tim, why do you call the Salem area home? What's your answer to that?
Well, that's an easy one. Just look around. I've had the privilege of traveling, and not to say that there's some areas that are really not pretty, but I can say that there are some places that are really pretty. And just look around. You look in the Willamette Valley here, you look in Salem, it's just gorgeous. I just love it here. And you have to admit that a lot of people give us a bad rap for our weather, but competing against tornadoes and humidity, I'd rather live here anytime. This is me. This is where I grew up. This is This was that. And then not only that, like I said, what to do. There's so many places to go. The Oregon coast, or you can go to the high desert, or you can go to these right here in town, go to these wonderful local restaurants, or, local brew pubs, and everything, it's happening right here. And I can't see myself anywhere else.
Like the Ross logo for many years, proud to call Oregon home.
That's right.
Both you and I are. On my journey as a young person, I got to wear a lot of hats at Ross, like you. Certainly not at the executive level, but from being in customer service and taking out groceries, and I loved running carts back in. We ran carts back in, and what did we do each time, Tim, when we came in? What were we looking for on the ground?
2-piece paper pickup program. Yep, 2 pieces of paper.
I still do it today. My staff giggles. I cannot go through a parking lot really anywhere without looking at the ground and seeing what trash I could pick up. I did it the other day at the Salem Kaiser School District. I'm like, it's just part of what gets ingrained in you. One of the jobs that I always found the most interesting, and you mention it, and maybe it's an employability skill, is raising your hand when asked. I got to do the reader board at Ross Sunny Slope, which meant, hiking up at a little bit of height and replacing numbers before there was a latch-in system and everything. Our manager probably just selected me because he felt I wouldn't jump off and do anything silly. Another one was cleaning grease traps on occasion, the meat department grease traps. That was a unique one to volunteer for. But talk to us about employability skills and what you feel makes a strong worker, because you brought up that your career largely happened because you were willing to raise your hand. You were willing to take on a new challenge. And I know, as a fellow employee at the time, Tim, that you were held in such high regard because Michael and Orville knew they could count on Tim for that. Talk to me about employability skills, and what do you look for in a great future employee?
That's a great question. I can still remember Orville always would, he had all these sayings. We called them Orvillisms.
Sure.
And there's so many that I have today. It's, somebody comes and wants to shake your hand, and you're sitting down, you stand up. Orville would always say that you never sit on your can when you're shaking hands with the man. He always had these types of Orvillisms that I grew up with. But the one that you're referring to is you can't change the stripes on a zebra. And what he meant by that is when you're looking to hire someone, what you really need to do in the interview, when you're talking to somebody and you're really talking to someone, is you really can understand somebody's character. And you can really understand who they are. And it's really hard to change the stripes on a zebra. And so you want to make sure that you are hiring a zebra if you're going to hire a zebra. And what I mean by that is you're looking for somebody in employability who is not really there because, they're just looking for a job. There's a lot of those. But I'm looking for somebody who really not only is looking for a job, but really wants a job that they can enjoy as a people person, like I was talking to you before. And so that's what you're looking for. Now, you can, and there's a saying that goes, is you hire character and you train skill. And then that's really what we're really trying to do.
Yeah, you've done a great job of it. We're speaking with Tim Jennings, president of Ross Fresh Markets. Tim, what are you most excited about as you look at the next month for Ross? You guys operate in real time. You have your deal of the week. You have ways that consumers can connect and get direct information from Ross, timely information. What's happening in the next month? I know we're on Hatch Chilies right now. What's the big buzz over the next couple months here?
Okay, you ready for this? Because I'm so excited.
I'm ready.
Apple cider cake donuts. They're coming. They're here. People are excited. I can't wait for that warm apple cider cake donut at Roth's. That, I can't wait. And then after that, we're going to be right into Roth's famous pumpkin pies. And I tell you, Roth's famous pumpkin pies, I've had pumpkin pies from other locations, and I always go back. It's the best. It is the best. And then we're going to be into Christmas. And when you've had a prime rib that is a Double R Ranch or a Painted Hills prime rib, where our butchers take and they trim the bones off and then retie them around so that when you cook that prime rib, it cooks with the bones on. And then when it's all done, you cut the string and it falls away. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Tim, you've exemplified why you are such a passionate person and the perfect person to be in this role. We've had a conversation with Tim Jennings. Tim, thank you so much for taking the time to share a little bit of your insight with our membership, a little bit of your tactical work to have great customer experience and taking care of your employees. We are extremely proud to have Ross as a member of our organization and an incredible light in our community for so many years. Thank you for keeping this going, and more importantly, thank you for your leadership and for making Salem a proud home for yourself and many of your employees.
Thank you very much for having me. We're really proud to be here.
Great. Thanks so much, Tim Jennings. We'll talk soon. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Salem Chamber podcast. The Salem Chamber is a 501c6, not-for-profit organization representing nearly 1,100 businesses in the greater Salem area. For additional information, please visit salemchamber.org. This has been a production of Dan Johnson and Lena Prine on the Salem Chamber's professional staff team.